The wounded healer, Chiron, was at the wrong time, in the wrong place, and got accidentally wounded by a poisonous arrow in his thigh. He is a centaur, half horse and half human, the smartest of the centaurs, who was already a priest and already a teacher before he got his wound and before he went into his exile. Even though all the centaurs were regarded as primitive creatures, not that smart and not that wise, he was an exception. He was a teacher of a lot of the young heroes in mythology. Chiron eventually became a symbol of suffering when he got wounded in that way, accidentally, and the wound couldn't be healed because he was immortal, and it was a poisonous arrow that struck him. After lots of trials and tribulations and a lot of suffering in exile, he eventually managed to ask the gods and for this to be accepted, for him to become mortal so that he can, die and then be given new life by them to continue as a healer, as a wounded healer. But the idea here is that we all are wounded somewhere in our lives. This is the symbol of Chiron in the chart, of a potential problem, a potential challenge, which is unresolvable. It's not like Saturn. Saturn can be worked with, but Chiron is something that we just need to put up with, become philosophical about, because it will be an area of life or an aspect of us, of our existence, which is never going to be made to work completely well or to be entirely positive. And usually that's some sort of a thing from outside. It's a circumstance, an external circumstance. That's symbolized by where Chiron is in the solar system, between the outer planets and the inner planets. So if we think of the solar system and the body of the solar system, finishing up to Saturn, and that's where it kind of gets closed off, 3 outer planets to be more like an aura of the solar system, then Chiron is in between Saturn and Uranus. Saturn, the last planet of, the main body of the solar system, and Uranus, the first one that's taking us out. They call it the rainbow bridge. It's always a bridge symbol of transitioning or constant interaction between the basic, the human, up to Saturn, and the divine, beyond Saturn. It is a centaur, half human, half horse, the double nature. Chiron can never be a perfect human, because part of him will always be animal-like, and he can never be a perfect god, because part of him is always down on earth and reminded of its mortality, reminded of its imperfection. This is part of the unresolvable nature of Chiron, that we all have something in us that remains raw, remains vulnerable, but the way to grow with it is through building some sort of inner faith and inner philosophy, becoming our own priest, internal priest, that through the suffering and through the discontent can come to some conclusions about life, giving it the chance to be an advisor, a healer, a counselor to other people in need and other people in suffering. So that's the expression of Chiron as a teacher and a healer. The Hierophant is usually a pontifex figure, especially in the old texts. It's a pope. So a pope in the role of the spiritual advisor. The word pontifex actually means bridge, the one who builds bridges.